You approved this contract. Your team didn't grow, nothing changed, and yet the bill quadrupled. You see, what replaced per seat is not the new standard. It is 4 competing experiments, all live, all running simultaneously. The meter runs not just what gets done, but on how hard the AI had to work to do it. You see, here's the thing. This is not a billing error. This is a structural mismatch. How enterprise software used to be priced versus how AI actually billed. And most organizations haven't figured the difference yet. Microsoft reversed course on Claude Code last week. Uber burned through its entire 2026 AI coding tools budget in 4 months. And both reported by Fortune, both for the same reason. Token-based billing scaled faster than anyone budgeted for. These are not procurement failures. These are structural mismatches. You see, the contract was built for per seat world. The meter was running in a token world, and nobody saw the gap until the bill arrived. Jensen Huang says 100 AI agents will work alongside every employee, and he's right about the direction. But as Fortune put it, if token consumption rises faster than the unit code falls, the future comes with much heavier bill than what executives expect. And that gap between what the contract assumes and what the meter records is what this episode is about. Enterprise leaders are signing AI contracts in the same way they signed SaaS contract 5 years ago. Same process, same annual budget, same assumptions. The number of the contract is a number that arrives on the invoice, but it is not. It's the industry data puts it at 78% of the IT leaders hit with unexpected AI charges in the past year. 61% had to cut other projects to cover the overage. You see, the per seat was never measuring value. It was measuring access. The assumption was very simple. If a human has a seat, then the value is being created. And that was true for 30 years because the human with the seat is the one doing the work. And then the agent arrived, an AI agent, which is software that can take action on your behalf without a human approving every step. Reading emails, updating records, answering queries, resolving cases, working through the night, no seat required. And here's a signal that told me that assumption had broken. I had a conversation recently with Noel Russell, CEO of the AI Leadership Institute, and she runs 6 AI agents: receptionist, executive assistant, social media manager, legal assistant. From February 1st to the day we spoke, we saved 430 hours. No seat, just agents. And somewhere the meter is running. The tokens, the unit of compute the AI uses to think and act. Every hour those agents run, the bill is moving. And that is not an isolated case. One of the largest enterprise workflow platforms reported that half of the net new business in early 2026 is now coming from non-seat based pricing. And they are not predicting this. They're reporting it in their investor release. So the per seat was never about value. It was about access. The moment agents start doing the work, the moment the worker does not need a seat, the 30-year assumption collapses. And when an assumption collapses, everything built on it gets repriced. And that is exactly where we are right. You see, what replaced per seat is not the new standard. It is 4 competing experiments, all live, all running simultaneously. The first model is token consumption. Every time an AI agent reads, writes, or reasons through a problem, it processes a unit of text called tokens. And token pricing means that you pay for every unit of compute that processing requires. Think about it this way. You know how a taxi charges for distance, right? Imagine that a taxi also charges for how hard the driver has to navigate through the complex traffic, route, difficult problems. The meter goes up, even if you never move from the spot. That is exactly what happens inside your AI contract. The meter runs not just what gets done, but on how hard the AI had to work to do it. Same team, same contract, 3 months, the meter reading in January 1 million tokens, by March 10 million tokens. Nobody changed the contract, nobody added the users. What changed was how autonomously AI was running. An agent working through a complex task can consume in 1 hour what a simple query consumes in a month. Deloitte puts it precisely. AI spend no longer behaves like a fixed overhead. It behaves like a variable raw material cost. And most enterprise finance team has never managed that before. You see, in this model, the buyer carries all the uncertainty. The vendor's revenue grows as your agent work harder, and you are the one holding the variable cost with no ceiling unless you negotiate one. Jensen Huang said on All In podcast in March 2026, a $500,000 engineer not spending $250,000 in token is underperforming. But productivity without the visibility is just a faster way to get a surprise bill, isn't it? Okay, take a look at the second model. The second model tries to fix the unpredictability of tokens. So instead of raw compute, you pay per action the AI completes. Updating a record, summarizing a case, answering a query, each action draws from a pool of credits. Different vendor calls it differently. Microsoft calls it flex credits. The principle is the same across all of them. A number that a CFO can actually put it in the spreadsheet. More defensible, more understandable. But here is what changed and why. The per action model was the pivot. One major problem, three different pricing models for the same AI product. And in 18 months, all three running simultaneously today. And that is not a company being indecisive. That is a market that has not yet ground its floor. And when the vendor themselves cannot settle on one model, the buyer needs to be very deliberate about what they sign. Let me show you what that shift actually looks like on paper. Left side, the old world. One line item, one predictable number. Same every month, year after year. On the right side, the new world. 6 line items, variable amount, the total nobody approved. Same vendor, same team, completely different financial relationships. The next two models sounds like the answer. One, you pay only when AI succeeds, and the other, one flat number. No surprise. Both sounds like a relief, but they are not. The third model is the most logically honest among the four. You see, you pay only when AI resolves the problem. If it fails, if it escalates to human, you pay nothing. Fair. The vendor only gets paid when AI actually delivers. And this model is growing faster than any other in this segment right now. But here is my read on why it is not as clean as it sounds. You see, everything in this model rests on one word, and that is resolved. Question is, who defines it? Well, the contract does. And right now, the most contracts do not define it precisely, though. A customer whose problem was technically answered, who comes back next day, still has unresolved problem, and the vendor got paid. The buyer has a dispute, and it is not hypothetical. It is happening in the live deployment right now. The decision is right. The vendor incentive finally aligns with your result. But the contracts to make it safe at scale, they are not there yet. If you're signing an outcome-based contract in 2026, the most important negotiation is not about the price per resolution. It is the definition of resolved. Let's talk about model 4, the flat fee. One number, but the meter is still running underneath it. CFOs could not tolerate the variable base, so they pushed back hard, and the vendors responded with what it looks like return to simplicity, one flat fee, unlimited AI agent usage, multi-year commitment. Vendor calls this an annual enterprise licensing agreement. One number, 1 year, no surprise. So it sounds great. Think about like a hotel minibar. The room rate looks simple. The bill at the checkout does not. In May 2026, Microsoft bundled seats, co-pilots, and AI agents into one flat monthly number. One invoice, the CFO friendly on the surface, but the meter is still running underneath it. See, the co-pilot studio runs on credit. So every time an agent performs a task, a response, an action, a reasoning step, credits are consumed. One number on the invoice, but the meter is still running. When agent usage scales, when your team starts running AI workflows at real volume, the credit runs out and the token billing begins. And the finance team that treated this as a fixed cost discovers in the month end, not at the signing. So here is how the risk actually sits across the 4 models. Token consumption. Buyer carries the maximum uncertainty. Per action shared by the vendor controls the unit. Outcome-based. Vendor carries the liability risk but protects through the resolution clause. Flat fee. The buyer appears to have certainty, but it is exposed at scale through the hidden consumption layer. 4 models, all live, but all imperfect. And in almost every case, the buyer is carrying more risk than the headline price suggests, especially when you go beyond a single agent. And here is where it gets even more complex. You see, the most enterprises are not running one agent, they are running several. A orchestrated directing specialist agent, each agent calling an external tool, a CRM, a database, a search, API, payment system. Every one of those calls costs tokens. Every handoff between agents costs tokens. Every external API call may generate a separate invoice from a third-party vendor. One business process, 4 invoices, and nobody wants you. And this is why some enterprises see the bills jump 5 to 10 times when moved from a single agent pilot to a multi-agent production system. The pilot looked affordable. The production system was not. You see, the most buyers walk into the vendor renewal asking one question: what is the price? Wrong question. Here's the question that I would be asking instead: if my AI usage doubles next quarter, who absorbs that cost, me or the vendor? Every pricing model gives a different answer, and the vendor will always structure to their answer to protect their own revenue. So your job in every renewal conversation is not to negotiate the price, it is to negotiate who carries the uncertainty. You see, the token consumption, buyer carries it entirely. Flex credits, it is shared, but the vendor controls what counts as an action. Outcome-based, vendor carries the delivery risk, but protect themselves through that resolution clause. Flat fee bundle looks like a buyer's certainty, but shifts back at scale through hidden consumption. And here is a number worth remembering. Gartner says that 40% of agentic AI projects will be cancelled by the end of 2027, not because of escalating cost, but also because nobody could prove the value justified the bill. 2 separate problems, both real, both preventable. Think about that. Not a technology failure rate, a commercial failure rate. Projects killed not by bad AI, but by bad contracts. that no way could prove the value. The market has not agreed to what AI work is worth yet. Until it does, your negotiating posture matters more than the headlines number on the coin. Here's a pattern I keep coming back to. You see, every corporate planning system that we built, headcount plans, department budgets, annual forecast, cost allocation models, was designed around one assumption: people do the work. More work means more people. More people means more predictable cost. The budget allowed the headcount, and that was true for over 30 years. But agentic AI breaks that relationship. Now, one employee can now launch 10 agents, and those 10 agents can trigger thousands of actions. Consumption scales independently of human count. You see, the Microsoft did not hire more engineers before the bill arrived. Uber did not grow its team before the budget collapsed. The agents just ran. And the financial system designed to catch cost growth were watching headcount, not the meter. And it is not a procurement failure, it's a planning system failure. Every dashboard, every forecast model, every renewal conversation is still built around the consumption that humans generate the work. But we are entering a world where software generates the work. And the system we use to measure, govern, and account for that work have not caught up yet. I spent 4 decades in the software industry, and the question I keep sitting with after everything we have covered in this episode is this: if the value now can be created by software nobody sees, work nobody performs, and the agent nobody hires, what exactly are we measuring when we measure productivity? The per seat model had an answer: utilization, headcount, billable hours. You could see the work. You could count the people. The token model has no equivalent answer yet. The market has not agreed to what AI work is worth. The Gartner says 40% of the agentic AI projects will be cancelled by 2027, not because the AI failed, but because nobody could prove the value justified by the bill. And this is the deepest version of the structural mismatch this episode has been about. Not just the contract, not just the meter, the measurement system itself. I do not have the answer to that question. Nobody does yet. But I think it is the right question to be sitting with before the next renewal conversations, before the next pilot, before the next agent goes live. What are we really measuring? And does that measurement still means that we think it means? If this helps you think differently, hit like. It helps more people to find it. Subscribe if you want to stay in this conversation. And if you know someone who's walking into this AI renewal conversation, this might be worth sharing with them. I'm Subrata, and this is the Spark on the Porch podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.